Um, okay, so we're going to do correlation, and we've been asked in the homework what correlates with Linux productivity, and specifically Microsoft productivity, age, and gender. And so we're going to do bivariate correlations between Linux productivity and those three variables. I've got my file open in SPSS. Everything set up appropriately. All right, Julie, I'm going to mute you. Okay. Analyze, correlate, bivariate. And I'm just going to move all four of these over. We leave Pearson selected, leave these the way they are. Go to options. And select means and standard deviations. Leave exclude cases pairwise. That just simply means when two pairs are missing, they'll be excluded. Listwise would mean if any case or any person was missing any point of data, they would be excluded from all analyses, even ones that they had data available for. Okay. So here's our output. We get our means and our standard deviations and the correlation matrix. And the correlation matrix just shows each bivariate correlation. Now the key here is to understand that across these ones on the diagonal, there's a mirror image. And so the top right half and the bottom left half are exactly the same. You can see from these across the middle. It's all exactly the same, so you're only going to report one half or the other half. And as we talked about in class, with such a small correlation matrix, the easiest thing is to just type in the numbers. But you have to make sure that these labels here and the labels here line up with the labels you put on your chart. Okay, so I'm going to open a new document, and this time I am going to this study involves 90 employees who had previously gone through training. For Linux productivity. The purpose of this report is to see if there is any relationship with Linux productivity scores and other factors such as Microsoft productivity, age, or gender. And at this point, you can make a separate sentence, or you could just do your mean and standard deviation here. You could also put this as a bullet in your report since your report is so small. So either way. So Microsoft productivity is 4737. The standard deviation is 1713. Whoops. Linux is 5770. Standard deviation is 1478. And then for age, it's 35 years basically. And the standard deviation is 6.89. And gender, we can tell there's more women because it's going towards 1. But I'm going to look at this really quick. %74 women. Okay. I'm going to make sure I can see this. Now for the results, I'm going to talk about that a Pearson correlation was conducted between Linux productivity, Microsoft productivity, age, and gender. We don't have any difference of an independent variable and a dependent variable because in correlation, they're really just all dependent variables. Next, I want to talk about my significant findings. Linux was positively correlated with Microsoft productivity, comma, italicized R. My degrees of freedom is going to be 88. It's the N, which is 90 minus 2. The R is 0.70. And the p-value is less than 0.001. Now, it's important that even though your correlations are flagged and give you a general, that it just reaches significance, you want to put the exact significance that you're getting in the table. And we're going to say as Microsoft scores increased, so did Linux scores. Employees who originally had higher Microsoft scores tended to have higher Linux scores. This is a large effect. Okay. Now, looking at this, again, our variables of interest are with Linux. So it's this row, even though we have other significant ones. So the next one I'm going to talk about is age. Linux was negatively correlated with age. Now I'm just going to copy and paste this. Change the values. The degrees of freedom is going to be the same. Minus 0.29. The p-value is less than 0.01. So I'm going to take one of these zeros out. And this is a small effect. As age increased, Linux scores decreased. Older employees tended to have lower Linux scores. This is a small effect. Okay, and then I'm going to look and see if there's anything here that is interesting or would help me in the results or that my boss might be interested in. And the first correlation here, there's a similar negative correlation between age and Microsoft productivity, but it's larger. So this indicates to me that while there's an age discrepancy, which is not good in any training, the training results should be irrespective of age, gender, any category like that. It is larger, so if they're shifting to Linux, that's a good thing. We're going away from a large age discrimination problem to a smaller one. So you could write something about that in your results. This positive correlation with age and gender means that the company has the company's older workers tend to be women. And how we know this is if we plot 0 and 1 and we make a positive correlation with age and women are 1, we see that as age scores increase, they're more likely to be a woman. I don't think that's relevant to this report. It's just the demographics, so I'm not going to say anything about that. But I might say something about this one in the results. You don't, or the recommendations, you don't have to, but you can. Okay, so our report's written. You just have to write your recommendations. The next thing, and you know you're gonna plug this into the table, and it's going to be done. You're going to go to week 9 and look up the table. Table for correlations. Okay. I'm just going to copy this over. And put it in here. Now, I need to switch these around so they match up. I'm going to insert another row. gender, and so then I begin filling in the numbers. You would fill in the means and the standard deviations. You don't need the n. And then I'm going to fill out a 1. First, I want to make sure I'm in the correct cell. 0.70, 2 asterisks, minus 0.29, 2 asterisks, 0.15, another 1, this would be minus 0.60, 2 asterisks, minus 0.14, 0.60 because you're going to round up, 2 asterisks, put your 1 in here and your 1 here. And when you do the bottom like this, I think that's why I had this column missing, because you don't need it just to put the 1 in. So that's your table. I'll just put a space in between there. Oh, and the other thing is, now that I've typed this in, I need to italicize it. The mean and the standard deviation already were. I'm going to take the paragraph off. And the last thing we need to do is create our scatter dots. So are there any questions? I'm going to unmute everybody. Any questions so far? Okay. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is do scatter dots for our 2 significant correlations of interest. And we simply go to Graph, Legacy Dialog, Scatter Dot. I'm going to select Simple. I'm putting Linux productivity in the X and Microsoft in the, in the Y and Microsoft in the X. I'm going to say OK. All right. My computer's frozen for a minute. I'm going to go on and do the next one while I'm waiting for my computer to unfreeze. I'm going to do the scatter dot, simple. I'm going to take Microsoft productivity out, put in age, okay. I'm going to double click on this graph and select the button Fit Line to Total. You might note that you have a couple of outliers down here that could be affecting your correlation, making it stronger than it is. Here you're going to double click, do your Fit Line at Total. Make sure this is linear, close. and you've got your scatter dot there. I might note that there are some outliers, these two in particular, around here. And otherwise, you are done with your homework. So let me open it up. What questions do you have? Going once. Any questions? All right, if you think of any, please let me know. Your case studies are up for both sections. If you have any questions on those, please email me as well. Good luck with that. Have a wonderful weekend and make sure you get your case study done soon. Get it out of the way. Thanks to everybody for coming to the meeting.